Moving on to Matthew Vader's pick. Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Excellent.
Bodacious.
They never say bodacious.
They do.
I don't think.
No, they say bogus.
Bogus? I thought they said
Quit
bodacious.
making shit up.
I don't know.
Come on.
This is my first time ever seeing this movie.
Are you serious?
Yes. Yeah. I've seen it. Like,
He's
I've
young.
seen parts of this movie.
This is when we realize that Salty's like a little kid.
Yeah, I am compared to you old folks. I've seen like bits and pieces and segments of this movie throughout, watching other movies and learning about where references come from.
This was the first time I'd seen this movie in quite some time.
And I didn't like 2/3 of it.
Yeah, it didn't age
This
super
is one of
great.
Kadish's favorites.
I bet.
I love this movie.
I mean, it's fun.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't know. I was kind of like bored with it until like the end. The ending was made the whole movie worth it. Like when they got on stage. But we'll talk about that.
You like
later.
the presentation?
Did you get Kadish's shirt? Do you get it?
I didn't read it yet. What does it say? Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Do you have a shirt
I
for
do.
literally everything?
Every movie, yes.
I might need to recreate
preposterous.
that shirt because that's a freaking dope shirt.
I bought him that shirt.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I have a Wild Stallions t-shirt, but I thought it was a little bit too on the nose for today.
Wow.
Plus, you had just worn it the
Yeah,
other day.
yeah, plus it's dirty.
It was in the laundry.
So, Vader, why did you pick this movie? And why don't you tell
Because it was the first one that had time travel in it that I could think of after Jude stole my other pick.
Sorry, friend.
So
That's literally how it happened.
Yeah, she was. Oh, you want to pick Hot Tub Time Machine? All right, Bill and Ted.
that's exactly how it happened.
So, is this like an old favorite? Because you say you haven't seen it in a while.
I hadn't seen it in a long time, probably over 10 years ago. Yeah.
It's an old favorite of yours, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's a classic.
Yeah, young Keanu Reeves.
Yeah, for sure. It's fun. There's so many today, even like pop culture references and stuff that go back to this movie.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, it's just a fun. It was just a fun kind of. Let's see how this movie has aged kind of experience for me this time. So
Yeah, as a first time viewer of this movie, I was more interested in the now famous people that are in this movie more than I was interested in the movie. And I was like, hey, I recognize that person. Hey, I recognize that person. Like seeing George Carlin show up as like the time traveler guru guy, Rufus. For a minute, I didn't think it was him. I was watching. I'm like, is that it? Like sometimes it looked just like George Carlin, and then for some other reason, I don't know, his face changed, or
Because he put sunglasses on.
he put sunglasses on. I was like, who is that guy?
Did he put a toothpick in his mouth and was completely unrecognizable?
Jackie Daytona.
Jackie Daytona.
Call back.
Call back to previous.
I keep going back to how dumb Keanu Reeves is in this
Oh my
movie.
gosh, dude.
This is so funny. Whoa.
Dude, the Southern California vibe is real strong in this
It's
movie.
real thick.
We still drive by when we go to LA a couple of times a year. We drive by the sign that says San Dimas or whatever. It's like, what? Bill and Ted's. Let's go.
the part where Sigmund Freud is analyzing Ted.
Oh yeah,
He's like on the couch at the end, and Keanu Reeves just sits up and he's like, whoa.
that's where that gift
That's where,
comes from.
yeah, that's that meme.
Yeah, it's funny. I
was
bet you like a bunch of people who use that gift don't even know what it's from. Like I knew where it was from, but I didn't know the context of it. Now watching this, I was like, that's a gif on Twitter. It's so weird. I'm so young.
I remember after this movie came out, everybody was going around doing the guitar lick.
the air guitar. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, dude.
Yeah, like people actually adopted the language from this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, for sure.
Like when I was growing up, we never used the words like dude or like excellent or like any of that stuff. But like after seeing this movie, like kids just start talking that way.
Yeah.
I still call people dude
Yeah.
all the time. I think it kind
Every
of started
day.
more with like Fast Times in this movie.
Well, it was,
Somebody
yeah, it
needs to
was
set the stage of this movie before we get too deep
it was a
into it.
surfer thing.
That's a weird stage to
So the
set.
stage, Ted and Bill and Ted have a history report they have to write, or they're going to fail high school.
Which would devastate the world.
And Ted's going to get shipped off to military school, and they have to keep the guys together because they write a song in the future that brings the entire population together, as in their band Wild Stallions. Currently, though, they can't even play a guitar, and so
Before I forget, there was that circle logic that they had. Like, well, we got to learn how to play in order to make a killer video.
No, dude, what we need is Eddie Van Halen.
to make
a killer video. But we can't get Eddie Van Halen if we don't know how to play.
Maybe it's time we get Eddie Van Halen.
That circle logic, I feel like, is the exact conversation that me and Kadish have about the YouTube thumbnails.
Yeah.
Like, dude, we got to have killer thumbnails to get a good audience. Like, no, we got to get an audience before we can have killer thumbnails. Like, no, bro.
I never said that.
You guys in your thumbnails fight needs to
It's
stay
ridiculous.
off the air. Okay.
Like, he's stifling my creativity.
So anyway,
Make it plain.
so they have to go back in time. Rufus comes back from the past or from the future to help give them the tools they need to go
Which is
back
a
in time to
traveling.
kidnap historical figures to bring them to the future to do a history presentation in front of the school so they can pass history class.
Right on.
So that's the premise of the movie. Really, that's it.
It's a very simple premise.
Very
Yeah.
simple.
I have a question.
Yes.
What happened to Bill's real mother?
Doesn't matter.
Dude, that was the most awkward freaking scene.
That's my favorite.
That's my mom. That's what is this?
Shut up, Ted.
Your dad's gonna go for it in your room.
Yeah, I like how Ted's just like, remember when I asked your mom out to prom? Hey, remember when we were freshmen, your mom was a senior?
Shut up, Ted. Dude, that is the creepiest freaking thing in this movie. When it, like,
Yeah.
his dad is
Dad,
like
the pedophile.
boinking the freaking 18-year-old high school dropout.
She's probably 19 or 20
Maybe.
at this point. But they've
But-
clearly been married for a while.
She didn't drop out.
Oh, that's right. She cried. Well,
Yeah, and Bill keeps calling her Missy. Oh, sorry, mom.
Mom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weird. So funny.
And and at the end, he's like Freud asked him if he wants to be analyzed, and he's like, "No, I just got a minor oedipal complex. It's all good."
I put together like a whole side story in my head about this whole
Ooh, tell us.
relationship. Like, I think that Bill's mom either ran off or died, and Bill's dad was alone for a long time. And then I think that Missy was like tutoring Bill in something, and that's how the father like saw her, and then he started banging her, and now they're married.
Yeah, Jude put way more thought into this than
Yeah, I think that's more thought than anybody's ever put
I
into
needed
that.
I needed to make it make sense.
That's legit because I was really weirded out by that, to be honest with you. I was
Yeah,
watching,
like what
and,
was Bill's dad doing? Hanging
that-
out at the school?
That
No.
like wink and a nod when he's
Yeah.
like, "Here, guys, go get dinner. It's
Yeah.
on me." And he like
Closes the
creepily
door.
closes the door.
And the
she's
look
just
on
sitting-
her
Oh my
face?
god!
Yeah.
it was super
It was
creepy.
so like out of a Billy Idol
like-
video.
This old man's going to take advantage. I mean,
Yeah.
and she's
She's
trying
like-
so hard to be like the traditional mom.
Yeah.
Like she'll come into Bill and Ted's room and like she'll put down like a plate of cookies and they're just staring at her cleavage the whole time.
Yeah, and then the dad comes in from behind and he's staring at her ass.
Yeah, dude, that was a
can we quit? Can we not cancel Bill and Ted?
no. I'm not. I found it like weird. It was really weird. I didn't like that part. It was
Oh,
kind of
that's my favorite part.
That's your favorite part? Oh, I didn't like it. I was like, this is a
The
little
look
bit.
on her face as the dad is closing the door was so, I'm gonna get it.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, I was like, I don't know, man.
This movie also made me realize that in the 80s they were not shy about using the F word a lot
Yeah.
because it gets dropped in this movie too.
Does it?
Yeah.
Yeah. We're like, so Bill thought Ted had died and Ted shows back up to rescue him.
Yeah.
And they hug each other because they're so happy that, they're see
alive.
each other again.
Yeah.
And then like they instantly pull back and they're like, like they say like the F
See,
word.
we can't even say it
Yeah,
on
we
the
can't even
podcast.
say it.
Makes
That would
me
get canceled.
annoyed.
But then they're immediately happy again after they've kind of established that they're both not gay.
I don't remember
Yeah.
that part. I remember him. I remember
was
him
in the-
getting stabbed. Which
Yeah.
again, I don't remember how he didn't get stabbed. Like I remember, like he falls down the staircase because they're like play fighting.
Well, nobody knows. He fell out of the armor.
Yeah.
He fell out of the armor. Is that what
the
it was?
armor that was obviously strapped to
Fell
him.
out of the armor, dude.
So
That was a good moment. Like when they were recreating Star Wars. He's like,
Yeah.
"You're totally not my dad, bro."
I'll never rule the galaxy with you.
That was funny. They were
There's
sword
a
fighting.
lot of cool stuff in this movie.
Yeah,
like
you
that.
know what's interesting is that this movie is actually a pretty sophisticatedly written like film, like all things considered.
It does hold together pretty well. I was trying to pay attention to how the time travel worked, and I couldn't really. It doesn't matter. I couldn't pick out any like obnoxious flaws.
It's the fixed timeline thing that we talked about, where everything that happens already happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like they were always supposed to go back in time and do this stuff,
And that's why they saw each other at the beginning of the movie come back and tell them, listen to Rufus.
Hey, Ted, give my love to the princesses.
Yeah.
The princesses?
What are you talking about? I love that part too, where you see that part later on when it's from the other perspective, and they're like, "Wow, that conversation makes a lot more sense now, dude."
Yeah.
But yeah, so like the sophistication of how like they kind of deal with the time travel in this, like it's obviously ridiculous.
Yeah.
But the logic of it's pretty sound.
Works.
It works. And the thing I love about this movie, because I remember watching it when I was a kid, and like I actually learned a lot about history from this movie.
Oh, I was thinking towards the end of this movie when I started to like it more, I was like, this is like something that a teacher, like a substitute teacher in history class, would be like, all right, guys, we don't have a lesson plan for today because your teacher called off, so we're just going to watch Bill and Ted.
Yeah, the made-for-TV version.
But because of this movie, like I learned about like who Freud was and who Socrates was and who Joan of Arc was.
Socrates. Still call them Socrates today.
And like all these like historical figures when I was a kid, I had no idea like they even existed.
Yeah.
And this movie kind of introduced me to them and made me like aware of them. So I feel like this movie has like that educational aspect. Like I never knew who like I never cared about Napoleon. Like I had heard of him.
Oh, I love that character.
Yeah. And it's funny because
what'd they call him? Little Piggy or something like that?
Ziggy. So the writers of this script, their names are Chris Matheson and Ed Solomon. I actually follow Ed Solomon on Twitter. He's been posting stuff about the new Bill and Ted movie. But these guys, they were kind of like, they were improv comics, and they actually created the characters of Bill and Ted in improv. And the way it would work is like they were like these kind of valley dude bros, who would use big words, but they'd sound like complete idiots. And in their improv things, they would just have the audience ask them questions, and they'd be like, "Well, actually," and then they're like, "That's a very astute observation, Ted." and so like this kind of Bill and Ted sketch that they had became really popular, and they were like, why don't we try making a movie out of this? And so like they sat down in a cafe somewhere or a coffee shop and like wrote out their entire concept for the movie by hand on like napkins and stuff. And originally Bill and Ted was going to be more of like a sketch comedy, like kind of Kentucky Fried Movie style film. And they came up with this concept where Bill and Ted get a time machine and they go throughout time and inadvertently cause some of history's greatest disasters, like the Titanic sinking and like the Hindenburg blowing up. And when they were like telling like a friend or like one of the guys' dads about their ideas, he was like, that time travel idea, that could be a movie in and of itself. And they were like, hey, you know what? You're right. And so they kind of shifted focus and made Bill and Ted more of around the time travel stuff. And basically the whole thing just kind of came out of them doing these characters as like, improv stand-up type stuff that evolved into this, zeitgeist classic of a time travel film.
I just wanted to mention before I forget, one of the princesses was Diane Franklin.
From Better Off Dead.
From Better Off Dead, who I have a huge crush on.
Yeah.
And I didn't know she was in this movie.
Were you stoked when you saw her?
I was super stoked.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, there she is.
Yeah.
White buffalo.
Great white buffalo.
Great white buffalo.
So the one of the interesting things about this movie, so it was made for like a budget of like $9 million. It was like super low budget.
I believe that.
And originally...
Why was it a telephone booth? Can somebody explain that to me?
Yeah, I'll explain to you in a second. So originally they wanted to get like a big name actor to play the character of Rufus, and they were really kind of angling towards Sean Connery.
That would have been cool.
From Highlander? Yeah.
But they couldn't afford any of these big name actors. And so like they realized that they're like, like all these guys that we're going after, none of them are comedians. And I think the director or someone had worked with Carlin on like a previous film.
Like Kevin Smith worked with Carlin too, right? Because I know I've heard Carlin did an interview
they're homies.
Where he was like, I like doing these small budget like comedy movies.
Yeah,
and he enjoys the camaraderie of doing it with directors.
Yeah,
and
so
actors
they
and
went to
stuff.
George Carlin. They're like, "Would you be in this movie?" And he was like, "Sure."
Yeah,
and so that's how we got Rufus. And it's kind of funny because like the character of Rufus isn't really comedic.
No, not at all.
But
does he become comedic later? I feel like in like the sequels or something, he changes up a little bit.
No, I don't even think he's in Bogus Journey.
I don't remember.
Be excellent to each other.
Yeah.
Bogus Journey is the one with the devil in it, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So originally, the time machine was going to be a van, and they wanted to have Bill and Ted drive the van around and, go and, throughout time. And in fact, the original title of the movie was like Bill and Ted's Time Van or something like that. And this movie came out after Back to the Future, and they were worried that the time traveling car was too similar to Back to the Future DeLorean. So they were like, well, what can we have instead of a car? And they're like, well, Doctor Who has a police phone booth that he travels through time in, and no one in America cares about Doctor Who.
That's true.
So why don't we just steal that?
Except for Nick.
But we're going to make it.
we're going to hear it from them.
Yeah, but we're going to make it a phone booth instead of a police box. So like that's kind of like where they.
It was like an LA.
I did kind of think it was
made out
funny
of
that
glass.
they stuffed like 12 people.
Oh
in
yeah,
it.
it's infinite.
Yeah.
Yeah, the space inside. It's just like the Doctor Who thing, right? Like it looks really small once you get in there.
Except
It's
they
like
all look like they're crammed in.
Yeah, they are crammed in, and in
And
fact,
then when it goes like
vertical.
horizontal,
They're all sticking out of it like a canoe, going through the time stream.
yeah.
and both Alex Winters and Keanu have gone on record as saying like they hated doing the scenes where they were like in the booth and it was on a gimbal. Like they called it the death box.
I can imagine.
Because they were all like crammed in there and they were like having to act, and it was so claustrophobic and hot and like dangerous, and they hated it. But it was actually kind of interesting how they got cast, because I think that the director kind of settled on Keanu first because he had auditioned, and this was around the time when like that whole generation of young actors was coming up in Hollywood. It was like Keanu and River Phoenix and like that kind of era.
what had Keanu done before this?
I don't think he'd done anything really.
Okay, this was his
Yeah,
first major
this
movie.
is like the first thing I could think of him in.
Yeah, same here.
And I know Alex Winters had done Lost Boys
yeah.
a couple years before this, so he had kind of a name to him.
That's another one I haven't seen.
You'd probably hate it because it has kids in it.
I'm gonna make him watch it in August.
Does it really have kids in it?
Yeah.
Yeah, well,
Like young kids? Like
Yeah.
Goonies kids?
Yeah, it's
Like
it's the two Coreys.
I thought it
when
was
they were young.
I just remember what's his face from Jack Bauer.
This isn't a
Kiefer
Lost Boys
Sutherland.
talk.
Kiefer Sutherland. That's the only person I know of from that movie. He was like a teenager in that movie.
Let's
though.
not get off the rails.
So anyway, the
It's
director
next month, right? August Bites.
the director had kind of settled on Keanu, and so they were looking for people who had chemistry with Keanu. And it turns out like Keanu and Alex Winters met in a line for McDonald's. And they kind of like hit it off because they had a lot of the same interests. Like they were both in a band. They both liked music and stuff like that. And so when they auditioned, like the directors had all the actors read for both parts. So they both like read for like Bill and Ted. And the characters were kind of interchangeable at that time because they hadn't really kind of worked out the details of the characters. But they just had such good chemistry together that they were like, okay, I think we found our Bill and Ted. And originally the screenwriters had kind of envisioned the characters as like these scrawny 14-year-old guys with like bell bottoms and rocker t-shirts and stuff. And once they cast Keanu and Winters, they were like, these guys are too cool. Like we can't write Bill and Ted the way we wanted to write them originally. So they had to tailor the characters to each actor. And I think Keanu made Ted like a lot more like, whoa, kind of like absent-minded and
Spacey.
yeah. And Bill was like, Alex Winters made him a little
bit more intelligent.
Yeah. But the great thing about this movie, I think, and the reason it holds up so well, in my opinion, is that the characters are just so sincere. They're like almost idiot savants. Where like,
Yeah.
like
They're lovable.
they're very like resourceful, and they work well together, and they're very good friends. And there's nothing like kind of malicious or mean about them. And I just love this concept that these guys kind of put all their best qualities into this music that ends up changing the world. It eliminates war, famine, disease. It brings
Unites the world, man.
it brings extraterrestrials to the planet and allows people to communicate across like boundaries. Like even animals are changed by this music because their music puts everything in harmony.
Yeah.
And there's this fantastic scene in the movie where they accidentally go to the future and
Wow, what did they say? Oh, the music in here is like
yeah,
Excellent.
yeah, they play quite excellent music, and like everyone from the future are just like, it's
Bill
you.
and Ted. Yeah.
and Bill and Ted don't know that they're supposed to be like these famous guys quite yet, and so they're like, I think they want us to say something. They're like, and Bill's like, what should I say? And, yeah. And so
He does his
pose.
yeah, he does the Socrates pose, and
Be excellent to each other. Yeah,
and that's such a great philosophy too. Like,
What does Ted say?
party on, party on.
And like just this notion, like the philosophy of the movie is just like be excellent to each other. Like I think that's just such a universally great.
It's the golden
message.
rule, right?
Yeah.
Do unto others what you do to yourself. Yeah,
and have a good time doing it. Party on,
party on, bro.
and it's funny because like throughout like the movie, this advanced futuristic society, they like the way they greet and say goodbye to each other is just party on, dudes. And it's all based off of Ted's like line at that moment. But the music in that scene and like just like the harmony and when everyone comes out and the music kind of swells and they just start doing like the air guitar,
Got the guitar solo.
and, like it was just like so beautifully done. Like I turned to Jude, I was like, this is my favorite scene in the movie.
Okay, I was going to ask you what your favorite part was. That's it.
Well, that's my favorite scene just because of everything it represents. But my all-time favorite part of the movie is when they use their time travel logic to get out of problems.
Damn it! You stole mine.
well, if you want to go through it, I'll let you. But like the part where they're doing the jailbreak,
Yeah.
and they realize like after all this is over, if we take the time machine, go back in time, steal your dad's keys, and leave them right here. I was like whenever I saw that, growing up and even when I watch it now, I'm like, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah,
it
it
makes
does.
absolute perfect sense. Like I would be doing that all day long.
Yeah, exactly. That's like when they figured out how the mechanics of time travel worked, and at the end they were like, we can use this to get us out of our jam, and that was like, dude, you're the one who stole your dad's keys 2 days ago. Like, I was like, oh my God, that's freaking brilliant. Like, it worked so well. And I love, remember trash can.
The trash can just falls from the ceiling. And I also like that Napoleon gets his own like side story.
Yes.
Oh,
in this
yeah.
movie.
He's completely
because
fleshed out.
originally the writers had planned to do that with Hitler. Like they go back in time and accidentally
Would not have
kidnap
aged
him.
well.
Oh no, that would have been cruel.
Yeah. So,
God.
So like when they were developing the script, they're like, well, maybe Hitler's not the best
Yeah,
idea.
you can't really redeem Hitler.
But they're like, who's someone like Hitler? And they're like, well, Napoleon. And they're like, okay, let's do Napoleon. And it's just, but it's kind of funny because they leave Napoleon under the care of Ted's little brother. What's his name? Steve, something like that. So while they're traveling back in time, Ted's little brother is supposed to look after Napoleon. And at a certain point, he just ditches Napoleon because he's a dick. And when Bill and Ted come back, they catch up with their brother. Like, what do you mean you ditched Napoleon? He's like, the guy was a dick.
Yeah.
And I could just picture that instead of Napoleon it being Hitler, where the guy's like, Hitler was a dick, man. I didn't want to hang out with that guy.
And he was like, it was funny too. And they were like, where would you go?
Oh, the water park.
Let's go. What was the name of that place?
The water park was called Waterloo. Which, if you know anything about Napoleon, that was like, his final defeat was at the Battle of Waterloo.
I watched this movie with my wife, and that was one of the scenes she like started laughing out loud in when he was running around this water park with all these kids in it.
Yeah.
He's pushing them all aside, getting them out of the way, and he's running around in a t-shirt with his ass hanging out.
Yeah.
It was pretty funny. It was like,
And it's funny because they didn't have the budget to actually rent out that water park. So like if you watch that scene, all the people in the background, they're just regular water park customers as they're shooting that movie. So like you can see them like looking at the camera and like, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I just thought that was kind of funny because like they stretched their budget as far as they could go. And they actually ended up shooting in Italy for like a week or something like that to get like the castle shots and things like that. But
there was also the scene where Napoleon goes to O'Farrell's, the ice cream parlor. And I don't know if you guys have ever been there, but that's a real place. And I've taken on that ice cream challenge more than once.
Have you really?
As a kid. Yeah. He's like the big giant bowl,
Pig.
and I don't remember the Ziggy Piggy. I think that was part for the movie.
The guys who served them, those were the writers of the movie.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But I was just thinking in this COVID era that we live in, 6 people with spoons going into the same big bowl.
Oh, yeah.
And Napoleon's in there like scooping out the slurp, and eating it with his hand at the end. It's like, you're like, oh, that's never going to work now.
And the funny thing is, it was Neapolitan ice cream he was eating.
Yeah.
The fish out of water moment where he was like, everybody was making fun of him and he didn't understand why. He was just like looking at everybody like, what's the matter? I'm just eating my ice cream.
Yep.
Vader, do you have any favorite moments of this movie?
Favorite moments?
Yeah.
Oh man, I don't know. I just thought it was a good movie. You always ask me for my favorite moments, and I just
like me and him, we both. He likes the.
Was there any moment that stood out to you that when you think of this movie, that's the scene that pops into your head?
For mine, it's going to be
really.
the creepy dad with the new mom, and then the.
Whenever I think of this movie, it's always Bill and Ted doing the guitar thing with their hands. And,
yeah. Excellent.
Yeah. So.
Right on.
Yeah,
Dude,
and I do love every time they do the air guitar. They always play like the guitar riff.
Sometimes they do, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes they do it themselves. They make the sound with their mouths, and they're doing it. And then other times it's like an overdubbed musical instrument.
Well, it's kind of like they hear it in their
they hear it in their heads.
And as the audience, we're hearing it.
It was you. I don't think you were a little kid when this movie came out, right?
What year?
Or if you were even around, right?
I was being born.
People in like school would actually do that to each other.
Yeah.
They'd be go, oh, dude! Yeah. It didn't last
air guitar.
It didn't last very long, but it was fun.
my era. I definitely didn't do that.
But there was a lot of dudes. What's up, dude? Hey, dude. How you doing, dude?
I mean that's a lasting thing.
I to this day use dude in 20 different versions.
I call my 6-year-old dude.
Yeah, me too.
I can have an entire
dude.
Yeah.
Dude.
You're not being excellent right now.
That's one of those words that you can have a full conversation with another person, and the only word you use is dude, back and forth to each other, 100%. And know what the other person means.
I also like how whenever they talk to each other, they always refer to each other by name.
Yeah.
It's like, that was a very astute observation, Ted. Thank you, Bill.
Shut up, Ted. Bill, your mom's hot.
I love that he called her cute the whole movie. He never like made it too overtly sexual. It was never like, I'd bang your mom, or your mom's hot, or your mom has great tits, or anything like that. It was always just like, dude, your mom's hot, or your mom's cute.
Yeah, whenever Bill was kind of like starting to lust after his mom, Ted would always be like, it's your mom, dude. And just snap Bill right out of it.
That's so weird. All right. Jude, do you have any favorite moments in this movie? Something that you really connect to or think of?
Yeah, no, I already said it.
You did?
Yeah. It's the scene where the older dad and the young mom are about to do it in his room.
Okay. It's my least favorite moment.
It's the door closing scine where the dad is like about to give it to her and she knows she's about to get it. I love it.
That's so creepy.
It's so creepy. I love it.
I also love how all the historical figures like end up becoming like such unique characters. Like, even though they're such one-offs, like Socrates like becomes like a real like part of the crew, and Billy the Kid's kind of like the ringleader.
Yeah, I remember I think one of the things that I just remembered when you said that was Beethoven playing with like the keyboards, and he's like jamming out in the mall.
And Genghis Khan with the bat.
Oh yeah,
that's like a legit. Can you imagine if real Genghis Khan came to the future and found an aluminum bat? That would change history with that thing. It's crazy.
Yeah, and just like Joan of Arc being like a big jazzercise fan. Napoleon discovering his love for water slides. I like how at the end he's going over his invasion plans for invading Russia with Bill and Ted. And
it's not going to work, bro.
And Ted's just like, I don't think that's going to work. And Napoleon just gets incensed and like throws everything off the table.
That was a lot of good moments.
Even like Abraham Lincoln,
he's the show
Party on, dudes!
7 minutes ago.
And this is just like a really feel good movie.
Yeah, it really is.
Even when they get in trouble in the Middle Ages and they're gonna be executed, it's like put them in the Iron Maiden and they're just like,
excellent.
Iron Maiden.
They're like, execute them, and he's like, bogus.
I do love that Jesse the Kid. Is it Jesse the Kid, right?
Billy the Kid.
Billy the Kid. Jesse. Who's the other guy?
Jesse Ventura.
There's the title of the show.
Jesse the Kid.
Jesse the Kid. Yeah.
There was another famous cowboy. His name is Jesse.
Oui, senor.
Oui, senor.
Jesse James.
Jesse James. That's what I'm thinking of. Billy the Kid. I like that. Like all the historical figures, once they get to know Bill and Ted, they're all like 100% on board.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
let's go on an adventure, dude.
Yeah.
Like, I love that. It's so
Billy
funny.
the Kid like ropes Sigmund Freud.
And there's a great scene in the mall where Billy the Kid and Socrates are trying to pick up on these girls.
Yes.
And Sigmund Freud just like comes out of nowhere and he's holding this phallic
Yeah.
corn dog. And as he's talking to the girls, it becomes this like erect penis type thing. And
Yeah, I hadn't picked up on that until I saw it this time.
it's very subtle.
Yeah.
Like teenagers aren't going to pick that up, but like once you know who Freud is, becomes and then like Billy the Kid and Socrates get pissed at Freud because he like scared the girls off. Just like
Socrates calls him a geek.
There's a lot of good moments in this movie.
like just one good moment after
Yeah.
another. Like I can't think of anything about this movie that I dislike really.
It's just the creepy pedo dad. That's about it, though.
Well, all the gags land. It's a very well written movie. The time travel logic is very interesting. It's just a fun film, and I don't like the sequel, but I feel like this movie is close to like a perfect 80s comedy. I love it.
I think I've seen the sequel, and I think that's the only one I've seen. I thought that was just the
The
one
sequel
and
is
only.
too dark for me.
Yeah, it did get dark, but I did enjoy it.
I don't really remember anything about the sequel.
I just
They
remember
die
them,
and they go to hell.
Yeah, I just remember them. I remember them playing chess with the devil or something like that.
No, it's death.
Death. Oh, death. Okay, I remember that. I remember thinking.
I
it
do
was
And
remember
they keep
that.
beating him.
Yeah.
That keeps like best 2 out of 3, best 5 out of 3. Yeah.
We'll talk about the sequel at some point. But that's it for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.